Welcome to another episode of the Route 77 podcast, the place where we explore faith, life, and the unique challenges and opportunities that come with being single in today's world. In this episode, we'll be focusing on the pressures singles often face, whether it's from family expectations, societal norms, or within our own church community. Our aim is to open up dialogue, share personal experiences, and discuss ways to navigate these pressures. If you're single and looking for a faith-based perspective on these complex issues, then this is the conversation for you. So sit back, relax, and let's dive in. Welcome to the Route 77 podcast. I am Natasha, your host. I'm here with Monique. Hello. And David.
Hello.
And today's topic is pressure. Grace under pressure. Grace under pressure. Just pressure.
Anybody else know the song? Don't sing it. Not on. We don't have copyright.
So specifically, there's lots of stuff we can talk about that we're under pressure with our jobs and even relationship pressure. And if when it comes to romantic relationships or deadlines and there's all these things. But specifically, today we'd like to talk about the pressure from family and friends and church and society on people who are either single or choose to be single, and what the ramifications of that.
How that affects your psyche.
Yes.
Spiritual journey.
Yes. Monique, did you ever feel pressure in relation to your relationship status of being single?
No,
Never.
no. It's really funny that growing up, I didn't really have that kind of pressure to get married and have kids. My parents didn't seem to be all that much into it like that. And I'm not entirely sure why, because so many families were that way. I had my own pressure that way. I gave myself pressure for that. My dad, he'd say, if you do get married, find a rich guy, a lot older than you, like 90 something or other, so that he can leave you all his money. I don't think he was serious. I hope he wasn't serious. And he always told me that if you do get married and have kids, only have girls.
Because you have control over that, obviously.
Apparently. Dad didn't care if our family name carried on. Yeah. And Mom, she was
We're back.
What?
Control over what? What?
Over
Gender you have.
Yeah, because I have all the control in the world about whether I have a boy or a girl if I'm pregnant. Needless to say, the funny thing is that my middle brother, Rob, he is married and has 4 daughters. I myself have a daughter. My other brother, Richard, he was married, but he had stepkids, so he had none kids of his own. My other brother is same-sex attracted, so he does not have any kids. He doesn't have any relationship. But he's not my dad's. The last 2 are not my dad's kids anyways. But even the youngest one, Brendan, he only has a daughter as well. So it's almost like my dad said, so we only have girls. We have no boys. None. There are no boys, no boy grandchildren. So weird.
How about you, David? Have you felt any pressure from anything dealing with your singleness?
So when it comes to me, is I don't necessarily respond to pressure like a lot of people do. So I can say that, yes, my parents provided or showed pressure towards having grandchildren, but in most cases, that didn't really have any actual visible impact on my decisions in life. Although it did with my brother.
And congratulations on that, too.
Thank you.
David is going to be an uncle.
Yeah.
We're congratulating.
Yeah.
So.
First time
uncle.
Yep.
Yay.
Clap. Yeah, so what about you?
I feel like my pressure was took the form of expectations, really, or it wasn't direct.
Mm.
It was an indirect form of basically, if you're my family and my church really promoted family units, like getting married, having kids, and praised that. So it was of course you want these things. This is what gets praised. This is a sign of success in your life because you've moved on from for singleness. I don't know. Like I said, it wasn't directly stated that, but it's inferred
I wonder if the family dynamics might have something to do with it. Because my parents divorced when I was in my teens, like my late teens. And their relationship while I was growing up wasn't a happy one. Us kids, like me and my two brothers, we were just like, yeah, we're pretty sure they're not going to. I'm surprised they're still together after all this time. So I wonder if because they were not happy in their relationship, that they didn't want to force us to get into a marriage relationship just for the sake of being married because they didn't want us to be unhappy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because it depends on perspective, and they aren't Christians either. So
No.
they have
No.
like a different perspective that way.
Yeah. So I wasn't raised in the church, so I didn't have that either. So
It just, for me, it was just like, yeah, the expectation is that you go to university and then you get married and then you have children. And if that didn't happen, then you had to figure out how to make it happen. And you're just going to singles events or going online dating or trying to fix it. And it was just, yeah, they really focused on verses that talk about how children are a blessing. Or if you have a quiver full, or the wife of your youth is another verse and stuff. And these are, and I'm not saying they're negative things. They're definitely blessings and positive things. But when it's the only thing that's ever held up as a standard, then you feel like you fall short. So there's this pressure to, yeah, like to meet these expectations or to be seen as acceptable.
yeah.
And like I said, it never was explicitly said, but it's, if this is true, then this must also be true, like the opposite. If you don't have these things, it's a negative. If these are positives, then these must be negatives.
Mm.
And instead of assuring that, no, both of them are positives, singleness and marriage. So we can probably start with like maybe family pressure. Definitely the very first expectation or pressure you're going to get is parents wanting grandchildren.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's like this sense that it's owed to them. You owe me grandchildren. But like I said, they don't come out and say it, but there's this great expectation. Yes.
Yep.
And a lot of this is built up or fortified or whatnot by just statements like, when you get married, when you have children, all these kind of when, as if they're statements of fact, even if you're changing the word to if, can change the perspective of what those statements say. I was even hearing like on a radio station, like a Christian radio station, talking about finances. And one of the things they're saying, well, you should try to get your finances under control and do this and that, because when you get married, this will be important. And yes, that's completely true. But that shouldn't be the purpose
To getting your
finances in order, because it's not a when you get married. It's if you get married, this could be. But just simply restating things instead of such a definitive statement, just putting it as like an optional statement.
The thing about that disturbs me with that statement is that it's assuming that as a single person, you don't need to get your finances in order as a single person. You need to get your finances in order so that when you get married, everything will be great.
Yeah.
What about when you're single? Shouldn't you have your finances in order so that you can be great then? So that's another topic.
Yes.
But when you are, as a parent, because I have a daughter, I will not be a grandparent because my daughter's special needs. I'm going to share a bad thing. When I realized that my daughter was never going to be one of those who would ever get married, she wasn't going to be any great doctor, lawyer, or whatever it is that she could have been. She will never get married. She will never have children. So I will never be a grandparent. And that was a dream that I had to murder, because to not have that vision, because you see all friends and they all have kids, and then their kids are getting married. And, oh, look at my wonderful grandbaby. Yes, it's wonderful. I am so happy that you have a grandbaby. But when you are on the other side where it's never going to be realized, it can be very painful. And I get that same with couples who will never have children. They face that same pain. And it's a wonderful and exciting and an absolute marvelous miracle blessing when people can have children and grandchildren and so on, and great grandchildren, and however old you want to live to, and how many other great
Generations you can get in
you
there.
can get into there. But as a person who is on the other side where those dreams will not be realized, you have to come to a point in your own life where you can say, I'm okay with it if it never happens.
And I had to come to that about having children. I'm going to be 44 this year. And again, I'm well aware that people at 44 have had children because I get told that by many well-meaning people. But unless something happens tomorrow and I find somebody or I make some weird decision and decide to get impregnated and have a baby, which I'm definitely not going to do, this is not going to happen for me. And I had to come to that realization. And it was such a freedom to come to that realization because it actually gave me freedom to enjoy babies and children around me. And I can do that. I can enjoy the babies and children at Taekwondo and church and whatnot and just embrace them and enjoy them and not feel like I'm missing something in my own life. But when you're dealing with family, with parents or siblings or extended family, you often get, when are you getting married? When are you having children? You don't want to be alone forever, do you? What happens if you get older? And these are not helpful.
And if you have a non-Christian family, you don't really need a man. There are places you can go.
Right? You don't need to get married. You can just live together or just find a baby daddy or
A donor.
a donor. And again, some people choose this, and we're not trying to demonize people who choose to go with fertility treatments. That's a decision they make.
It's between them and God. And
Yeah. And their children are still wonderful and blessings and everything. But it's a single person who is within the family that's accepted these things, the singleness, the not having children. And one thing I've done is I've never said never. But as far as I'm aware at this point, I'm not looking to get married. I'm okay with that. That's not my goal. But when you're trying to deal with family and pressures of it, like, how would you handle like the relatives who are being like, do you have a boyfriend yet? Or don't you want to get married? Or what happens if you get older and you don't have no kids to take care of you? Like, how do you deal with these questions in a loving and respectful way?
I had a coworker who used to tease me all the time. She got to the point, she says, you know what? I've determined that you're just never going to get married. You're never going to get into another relationship. You just don't want to. The more you deflect or channel one of these days, that may be a great thing. But you know what I'm doing right now? I have decided to go to university and I am taking these courses and direct it to something exciting that maybe it's not university, maybe it's a sporting event, or maybe it's an art class or a dance class or singing class or music or picking all the arts, aren't I? Because that's what I want to do. But there are other things, there are interests in your life. There are things you're doing. Maybe you're traveling to wonderful places. One of these days, maybe I will get married. Maybe I won't. But you know what? I am having such an exciting time. Let me tell you what I'm doing now. And that's a nice way to deflect the conversation away from kids and grandkids and marriage to what your life means to you. Because as a single person, there are things that are important to your life right now. And if marriage and children are not even on the radar, then you must be doing something so exciting with your life that,
Yeah. And you should be doing, and it doesn't be exciting as in like
skydiving.
Yes. Just something that you're doing, something that you're doing like for the kingdom, something that God is having you, calling you to do.
Yep.
And that's given you like your purpose.
Yep. There's a girl I know. She is about half my age. She is a single girl. She has the same name as me, and she is doing one of the most exciting things. She works for Gain, and that's a ministry that goes all over the world. And she's always showing pictures and posting, and she's going all these places and doing all these wonderful things. And as far as I can tell, her mind has got absolutely nothing to do with getting married and having kids, because she has such a full life going to all these places and building wells, helping people to plant crops and whatever else that Gain does.
Yep. David, any comments?
Really, I'm finding it hard to relate to a lot of this.
How do you deal with anybody that's asking you like, hey, don't you want to get married? Or have you found a girlfriend yet? Or does Parker having a baby make you want to have a baby? Like,
Do you have other relatives
No.
that your parents? No. Do you have other family members here aside from your parents and your brother?
I do not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. Any family members that came down were my only grandparents, but then they passed pretty quickly, and that was a long time ago. No, I think I shut that down long ago. The
Oh.
whole, "Hey, do you have a girlfriend yet?" My parents knew there was something off about me. They never officially got me diagnosed with autism until I was 18, 19 years old.
Oh, wow.
But they also knew that I was also legally blind. And so they chalked up most of my behavior that actually ended up being related to my autism to me being blind. But I think it was that behavior that prevented a lot of my aunts and uncles, extended family, to asking me those specific questions. I think because I don't know, really. After I was like 12, 14, 15 or something, mid teens, you just stopped asking, really.
Mm.
And I could only presume that it was because just behavior, I guess, behavioral patterns,
Okay.
stuff that they didn't really see my life headed in that kind of direction. However, my mom, on the other hand, I don't think she could see it. My dad saw it; he understood it. But my mom still expected the firstborn to get a girlfriend, get married, and have kids. I don't think she ever expected my brother being the first one there.
Yeah, see, your disability is less. I hear what you're saying, and I'm thinking, yeah, in case our listeners are wondering, my daughter is severely handicapped and in a wheelchair. She needs 24/7 care. So for her, that expectation, it can't even be realized on a good day. For you, it still can be realized at,
Oh no, yeah, I know. It definitely was a realization. I think my mother had hope when I
yeah.
dated in high school for about 6 months. And it was like a sudden thing. It wasn't something that I was actively seeking. But after that 6 months, really, I didn't really have any interest in pursuing another girlfriend or
Mhm.
actually finding a wife or anything like that. It just never interested me. That may be because of just the expectations of everyone else. Really, I just didn't care enough about what other people thought about my direction in life,
Right.
what they expected, and I just ended up just doing my own thing. I knew exactly what I wanted to pursue when I was young. I knew I wanted to get into IT or computers and cybersecurity. I knew I wanted to do this, and that's what I pursued directly. And when it came to relationships, dating relationships or romantic relationships, it never interested me in the slightest.
I think it's kind of good that your family's not coming at you with these questions, but I think it's sad too that people make this thing in their mind like, oh, just because of like some thing, they're not really going to get married.
Yeah.
Instead of,
Eligible.
yeah, instead of,
Right. What's that got to do with anything?
At the same time, though, they probably didn't know how to approach it
yeah.
in regards to my current disability, legally blind. Maybe there was a different way they had to approach it. They had no clue how to approach it. And I could actually visibly see that because they kind of poured that direction to my brother.
Uh,
So I get the impression they had no clue actually how to express any of those things towards someone who may have been legally blind and autistic.
And yet it's like we get people who are single can have completely fulfilled and exciting and like blessed and every single thing a person that's married can have in just a different way.
yeah.
And unfortunately, I say because I'm assuming that I'm not really assuming because I think I've had these thoughts myself is that you see certain people and you're like, oh, they're never going to get married. Like it's some sort of negative thing. And you're just like, that's a horrible thing to think. And it's like a horrible thing to presume. And it's also not a horrible thing for them if they choose to not get married. Like it's not a negative. It's just a lane of life. It's just, because then we can move on from, because we have the family and we've dealt with the family. And I'll encourage family to start asking questions like, what's new with you? Instead of, do you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, or are you
When are you
thinking
going to get married?
Yes.
Have kids.
Because if they're going to have married and have kids, that's what's new with them. And they will tell you.
That's right. And I'm pretty sure that they'll be very excited to share that kind of news.
Yeah.
When it comes to babies, oh yeah, you'll be the first to know.
But yeah. So just changing we wanted to more from like a person who's receiving these comments, but just if anybody's listening or if you've made these comments, just adjust how you're saying things and just say, hey, what's going on in your life or what's new and not just what's new and don't care, care like what's new with them. And then they're going to tell them what's exciting. And if it's a relationship, it is. If it's not, if something else, then great.
Yes, because if you're one of those kind of people where, that relationship expectancy is so hard pressured on you, it can lead to depression and anxiety when you can't find that relationship. To have that pressure removed can relieve a lot of that. And then you sit there going, okay, maybe they actually value me as a person of my own without somebody attached to the hip.
Yeah, there's no need for like a wedding to make me a person or something.
For some people, it becomes such a thing.
It does affect the people that are being pressured because they're going like, maybe this isn't okay being single. Like maybe there's something wrong with me. Like why can't all these people found somebody and this person's horrible and they found somebody and like you start looking at yourself and then
you can get those who are so fun. You want me to get married so badly? I'm going to go and get married. I'm going to marry myself. I'm going to have a wedding. I'm going to have the dress. I'm going to have the banquet and y'all are invited. And I'm going to stand up there and say, yeah, I do. I accept me. I do.
And you think it's that people have done this. And the thing is, it seems people like mock it, but at the same time, I think it is them pushing back and being like, hey, did you need me to be in a relationship? There I am. Okay. Leave me alone.
All right. That's not the wedding. No, leave me alone.
But then we move away from the family and then we're like, oh, we leave the house and we walk down the street and now we're in a society where there's like a whole other group of pressure, but it's basically the same type of thing, pressure towards relationship.
Anywhere you go, whether you go to the park, whether you go to the mall, whether you just walking down the street, you're going to see people pushing baby carriages, holding hands with children, holding hands with each others. Yeah. You see the old couple who are walking down the street, they're still holding hands like they did when they were teenagers.
Yeah, it's so you see it all again. This is adjusting your own expectations and accepting either road as a valid way of living and can be fulfilling. So either road is singleness or marriage. Again, I had to do this when I was separating from my ex and we didn't have any kids and I was heading towards divorce, which I was okay with. But then I was able to actually, it was weird. It was just like all of a sudden this relief of, wait, this is okay. And just being able to say that and be like, being single is okay. It's okay. Okay. And it's just the relief of that. And it's just, and it doesn't mean it doesn't come with some pains. No, because the desire for children, the desire to be loved in that way, especially when you see it in movies and read it in books and you see it among people around you. Yeah, like it's going to be there.
Yeah.
Or it's going to, but it may be there. It may be there, depending on the person.
But no matter where you go, you're going to see this.
Yeah,
you're going to see couples, you're going to see families.
The thing is, there's going to be always things that I think in everybody's life, there's going to be dreams and things that don't get realized the way that they expected it, especially the way they expected it.
Yeah.
And that you have to come to terms with.
Yeah.
And it might be that you didn't get to go to the school that you wanted to, or take the course that you wanted, get the job that you wanted, or find the spouse that you wanted, or have kids, even if you do find a spouse, or all these things. Like there's going to be some things in your life that aren't what you expect. And you need to be able to deal with these things. And for me, it was like being single and not being a mom. And I thought if you would have told me that before, like I would have just killed me. But then all of a sudden, like the freedom I felt after coming to that understanding was just crazy.
I remember as a younger person, much younger person, a lot younger person, if you were in a relationship and then you broke up from the relationship, because I had that. Maybe you didn't have that, but I had that. The thing that got me the most is that all of a sudden now you thought yourself single and oh, it was me, I'm single. Everywhere I look, there are couples. I see no single people. Everybody has somebody. And then there's somebody for everybody in the world. Oh, actually there's not.
There's a lot of fish in the sea and you're just being too picky and all the other things we've talked about.
What about or that friend that says, now that you've started a singles ministry, you're going to find the right guy and get married. Wait, what?
Yeah. So yeah, so even society, like if you even think about the sexual orientation, that's such a big thing right now.
And I think this should be a really good discussion we should have once upon a time. You know what?
But just the fact that sexual orientation is so prevalent as like an identifier.
Yeah.
in society, what does sexual orientation mean if you do not have a romantic relationship? It means nothing.
No.
It's moot.
No.
And by making this so much of a person's identity, a society claiming it's a person's identity, that if you don't experience your sexual orientation in a relationship, then somehow you're not fulfilling yourself as a person, like you're losing some of your identity by not expressing it.
No. But sex is not an identity.
No, but it has become one.
Yeah.
And that's what I remember. I think back in World War II or whatever, or 50 years ago or 60 years ago, that when you were in the military, one of the things they would put on your dog tags was your religion or your denomination, because that was part of your identity. And yet now we've moved away from that, because there's many people who are basically, they say they're calling themselves the nuns. They have no religion. They choose to not identify with a religion. And now it's gender identity and sexual orientation. These are the things that have become identity. So like I'm saying, like with society, what happens if you cannot, or if you can't or choose not to experience that side of your identity, of your sexual orientation? And there are people who literally say, if you don't have sex, then you're repressing yourself, and there's like parts, you're not fulfilling yourself as a human person. Yeah, some people even go as far as you'll die. And I'm like, I don't understand that one.
I don't.
I think you're more likely to die from having sex than not. But
I've heard of that happening.
so yeah, it's just like that society is creating this identity around sexual orientation,
And sexuality.
and sexuality has placed an expectation on
way too much
people.
importance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in young people.
What about your urges? Give it a minute, it'll go away.
Yes, they're urgent. If you can't control yourself, you're an animal. We're not animals.
Sign
And if you're married and you have urges, but your spouse is like
sick
on a business trip for a month,
what are you gonna do then?
it's just, I don't know.
It's weird.
What do you think, David?
It's not absolutely not what you guys are talking about.
Yeah. When it comes to, I'm not exactly sure what you guys. I'm a bit lost.
Social pressure.
No.
I was talking about like basically how sexual identity or sexual orientation has become an identity. But if you choose to remain single and not be in sexual relationship with anyone, then you're basically denying
Your identity.
because you're not experiencing your identity.
Okay, I agree with that. But also at the same time, if you're consistently changing your identity, then what identity do you actually hold? You don't hold anything really, because it's always changing.
Yeah. Just this gender identity and social orientation have become so prevalent in society, as being so important. And it's almost like life-threatening if you can't express it.
So on the flip side of that coin is that you get some people who have taken that and they express themselves to the nth degree, to the point where it's just, I cannot believe they think like that. Like we can get into very controversial sometimes weird, like hands off of that. But
For the moment.
for the moment. But sexuality in and of itself, society is really based so much, like the media, everything. Sex is everything. Sex sells. Yes, it does. Ask the pornography industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Billion?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
I would argue that it's probably in the trillions. But
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
You're being too.
I'm being too conservative. Is that what you're saying? Okay. But
it's way bigger.
so everything is, even if you are in a relationship, it's, so have you done it yet? Have you done it yet?
Yeah, and it's been like 3 days, or if that.
Yeah, if that.
And you're
If you haven't, if you also, you met the guy, so did you sleep with him yet? Wait, what?
I
Do you
know.
really want to get to know the person first before you start hopping around in everybody's bed? Don't do that. Because it's sex is not all that bag of chips. And like I was following this one lady on Twitter, and she had mentioned something about that, it doesn't work. Where I got that, you're not going to die if you don't have sex. And the comments from the guys, because they're like, oh, yes, we will. It's like, seriously, dude, you will not. because it's like cake and ice cream. You can live without cake and ice cream. You're not going to die. Sex is like cake and ice cream. You're not going to die. You're not going to lose out. If anything, too much cake and ice cream can make you.
It is biological function, and there are hormonal parts to your body which crave it at times, but it also is you can live without it. Like it's not your subsistence. It's
No.
not your
And it's not your existence.
like if you chose to not drink water or eat food and yet you chose to have sex, like that's
Then you
like
go-
you can have food, water, and sex, and you need to take away one of those things.
Which would you take away? You can only have
two. One of these Facebook quizzes.
Yeah.
You can only have two.
And there are ways to deal with the urges. If you're a young person and your hormones are going out, they're growing a little bit out of crazy. Pick up a sport, do running, do something, ride a bike, roller
Because
skate.
if you're saying this to young people, like you're telling them that they should have no self-control. And if you don't develop self-control, and if the adults around them don't develop self-control,
How can you tell that to the kids?
yeah, and like I said, like what happens if you do get in a committed relationship and the other person becomes chronically ill?
Yep.
What happens if they become quadriplegic? What happens if they are in the military and they're
Gone.
gone for 9 months? Yeah, we know what people have chosen to do in those situations, which is not right, but we say it's not right because they're finding ways to satisfy themselves that are outside of the bounds of what is right. And if society is pressuring to the point of saying if you don't have sex, you're nothing, you're not even you have no identity, then because there's even people
That's wrong.
yeah, there's even people, there's a one identity that's out there is asexual. And they're people who just don't feel sexually attracted to anybody. And they don't feel those like desires to do these things. And they feel like very not seen in this society as well. So they're like, they've become very vocal and things too, because these are all parts of it. So yeah, there is that pressure of just society of being as a single person. Like somehow you're just, I don't know, people like I did not experience anything with a guy until I was 30. And I'm just like, people who like find that out, they're just like, how is that even possible that you made it that far? You just must be running around horny all the time. And you're just like, what in the world? And that's not, because it's not the focus of my life. It's, I don't know, it's when it's not here, like when you don't, it's very easy to think about other things and do other things.
It's
I
not
don't
the
know.
end all be all. No. And your identity is not in your sexuality. Your identity is not in whether you're married or single, because what was it that you said? Where did you, I think you heard it from Adventures in Odyssey. Yeah. If it could be taken away from you, it is not your identity.
It was on Books on the Family, but it was just one of their radio programs.
Was it?
It says, who are you? And he said, here's a hint. If it can be taken away, then it's not who you are. So if you want to identify by a sexual orientation, but never fulfill it by having a relationship with someone, whatever that may look like, that's essentially taking away that side of you. And as if you've identified with that, then yeah, you will lose some of who you are.
So then the question would be, where is your identity? Where is your true identity? If you're a Christian, we say that our identity is in Christ.
Exactly.
That's
Right.
never be taken away.
No.
A relationship status does not affect it.
Something that's solid and foundation.
Yeah.
That doesn't crumble, or if someone could take a sledgehammer to it and break it and then reassemble the bricks in some random order. Because if your identity is shattered, you can rebuild it. But in order for it to be a solid foundation, you have to be able to rebuild it in a way that you have to be able to rebuild it. And see, I'm even struggling to wrap my head around what I'm trying to say because it doesn't really make sense. If you break something, there's a likelihood chance that you can't reassemble it in the same manner as it was originally built.
No.
And I see all these identities going around the world, and they're so fragile.
Yeah.
They change if you go to different states and depending on the context. And so, like,
In different countries and
So they're building their identities on sand.
yes. So I think, yeah, when you're coming to societal pressure and you have maybe people around you, especially if they're not believers and they're just like, you don't have to be in a relationship, you can still do whatever. And it helps to just really go strip away the outsides and find out who you are and what you identify in. And if it's something that's can be taken away from you, then at some point it may be taken away from you and then you will stumble. But if you can create your foundation of your identity on Christ, then you built it on something that can never be taken away.
Yeah.
And even if other things get taken away from you that you felt you identified as, if gets stripped away more and more, you will still be left with Christ.
Yeah.
I got to point out too that I will respect anyone who wishes anything upon them. They can identify as however they want. I will respect it wholeheartedly, but you have to make it. But it's just you have no foundation. So I will respect you, but your foundation will crumple, and I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. This is a bigger discussion than we can have in this little podcast.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to say one thing or another about people's choices with gender identity or sexual orientation. That's a conversation for another time, and we will hope to have that one. What I'm just trying to point out is that when we put part of our identity on our sexual orientation and then choose singleness, then that part of our identity will not be realized or actualized in any way, because if you're not in a relationship, then sexual orientation is essentially moot. Like, you may still feel attracted to however it is that you identify, just as I could be attracted to a guy that I see, but I'm not looking to get in a relationship with anyone. I'm not planning to be in a relationship. So it's irrelevant. It's, you just go, oh yeah, it's kind of cute. And then you move on with your life. That's as far as it ever goes. But if you just put so much into the fact that, like, no, I am, and insert the sexual orientation, then what does that really mean if you never actually pursue it? And if you choose singleness, or if circumstances of your life create around you because you end up with in the single life, then it can be damaging. So
That's a big topic. It is a very big topic. And then we're probably, and any of the listeners are probably going to go, what? I don't understand. We may need an expert with that.
and we hope to get one.
I'm trying. He's not getting back to me.
So finally, we've left the house and we walked down the street, and now we've walked into church. So again, it's just going to be similar to the family one, I think, and take
Because
aspects
the
of
church is
society. And yes, where you're going to be surrounded probably even more so by families, young families with small children, or elderly people. There's going to be a variety of people acting like families.
Engagement announcements during service,
Marriage announcements,
anniversaries, births, baptisms.
There'll be people around getting people ready for bridal showers and baby showers. And as a single person, you definitely
Wedding invitation.
Yeah. Engagement party invitations. So many things. And again, not bad things. Celebrate. Perfectly wonderful things to celebrate.
Absolutely.
But can leave a person who is single really left out.
Yeah. Feeling like you're on the fringes.
Yes. Because nothing that you do is considered noteworthy enough to be celebrated.
And the hardest part too of a single person is that if you're in a group of single people, as those single friends start getting married, you're going to find yourself with less and less in common with them. So they all of a sudden if you don't keep adding to your group of friends, you might find yourself being one person who's sitting on, why is everybody else around me getting married and I'm not?
Yeah. And I lived through that.
Yeah.
Definitely, especially going to Christian university. And it's, there's going to be the pressure on you as a person. Like, especially if you're, like we said before, you have these desires.
Yep.
And you're sitting there going, like, what's wrong? Yeah, they're normal. I've given desires.
Yep.
But when we're going around, what's wrong with me? Then you start like thinking, like, what's wrong with me? Everyone else is. Why can't I? Is God angry with me? I'm angry with God. And instead of the church coming around these people and like celebrating them as complete whole individuals who don't need to achieve these marriage goals or these married life road milestones. That's right. That's what I need. Milestones. There's milestones for single people too.
Yep.
And that's where the church can come around single people, and instead of waiting for them, you're like, oh, they finally got married at 44. And yeah, let's have a celebration because she finally got married or whatever. It's
What about the one that was 78? I got told, you know what, you don't. I know a lady and her husband, they didn't get married until they were in their 70s for the first time.
and it's just
That doesn't
that
matter.
doesn't help people who are single
No, that's so whack.
because that's them and not you, and that's their lives and not your life. And when you're feeling the pressure from everywhere all around you and you're already questioning what's wrong with you or why is God punishing me or what do I need to do more to get his favor to get married, then like you just feel at a loss.
I'll tell you, at my age, which is not that old, by the way, but it is up there. It's hard enough sharing the bed with a cat. He takes up all the foot room, really. Why would I want to share my bed with another person? I'm quite happy with I have mine. Stay on it. And the cat can get off too.
Yeah. So in the church, I think we need to come around the single people and to celebrate them and their achievements and their milestones. We just need to be more creative.
In acknowledging their milestones
Yeah.
and not just the marriage, engagement, births.
If you get to be 75 or 78, usually they announce that one.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you have to live a long time to get any.
Or my boss's father passed away the day after his 100th birthday. That's pretty wild.
Yes.
But his mother's still going.
How about you, David? Anything to add in here? Church pressure?
I don't particularly like a lot of churches because they create a huge misunderstanding on what it means to follow Christ when it comes to these kind of things. They create massive emphases on all of these events and these activities and these milestones in life when in reality they're not bad, but they're not what we should be focusing on as a church community. And it drives me nuts seeing people so misled by these events and taking these events so seriously that they never actually end up, that it takes them decades to understand who Christ really is.
He's on a soapbox.
Yes. You
Good.
touched your
We've touched a nerve.
button.
Yep. Gone for just all their things about marriage and why don't they preach what they're supposed to?
No, the churches do.
Yes.
But the thing is, at the same time, they create a higher emphasis on what material life milestones people have accomplished. Preach on how Jesus saved our lives, and yeah, that's fantastic. But then it's overwhelmed in the end by other things,
Oh.
and it's just saddening. It just saddens me so much.
I even remember one lady saying, like, when I was talking about this, and she's, that's so true because I know sometimes they'll say, oh, let's congratulate so and so on 30 years of marriage, and that they know that their marriage is not a good or happy one. Like somehow if you just get to these milestones, then you've made it. And yeah, it's like they are milestones, but it doesn't necessarily mean that these are good things that are happening.
Yep.
Like a marriage that's bad is not a good thing.
No, we thank God for his faithfulness.
Yes.
And
that's-
you've got one or both couples sitting there going, faithfulness.
Yeah.
We're just hacking it out because we don't want to lose face in front of the church.
Yeah, or there will be there for the kids or
Yeah.
whatever, multiple reasons.
And that's another thing that kind of upsets me too, is that these couples or these married couples, it's so ingrained that these milestones have to be time-based. If you reach 15, 20, 30, 45, 50, 60 years, that's all they ever get. That's all they ever know is that it's based upon time-based milestones.
Yeah.
Much better milestone would be just, I guess, communication between the couple, like actual human to human relationship milestones instead of some arbitrary thing that humans can't even figure out because we have daylight saving times. Can't even generalize our own time spans because of whatever stuff's going up on in space.
Nope.
That it's so altering and so changing time itself, and we create these milestones based off it that we even miss these milestones. We don't even remember these milestones. They become so common that we don't sometimes remember, oh, it's our anniversary, oh, it's our birthdays, or
How long anniversaries became a thing? Because I wonder that when Jesus walked on the earth, if they celebrated anniversary milestones, I wonder when that
I don't
became a
know.
thing.
Could it probably depends on the culture and
Yeah.
things.
These things are great. It's not that these things themselves upset me very much. It's the fact that they have far more emphasis on far more implications on driving one's life than they really should.
If you think about it, I don't think we were ever given a marriage anniversary in the Bible by anybody.
No, I don't think so.
They talk about how long people live,
Yes.
but not how long they were married.
And those weren't even supposed to be milestones. They were supposed this person lived it was mainly emphasis is on the family tree. Like, this
Yeah.
person lived so long and then they had so and
Yeah.
Or their genealogies and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
There was
exactly.
But what the funny thing is that the genealogy thing really ended with Christ
It
because
was all leading to that.
it was all leading to him. So if you read the Bible past
Christ's birth.
Christ, is it past his birth? Probably. When I'm sure they must have mentioned some others
Well,
after
well,
that.
here's the thing though. After Christ, everyone became the children of God.
Yes.
Christ made everyone genealogy. Like we are his children, and through him we have become the children of God.
Yeah.
So there isn't a specific line anymore.
Yeah.
It's now everyone. Like
Yeah. His blood runs through our veins. And that is where our identity really should be. If you're not a follower of Christ,
See, that
it
would
can help you with
because I would think about Paul and his milestones would have been when he lost his sight and became a believer in Christ, and then probably when he started his missionary journeys, like when he finished his training as and then went out to be an apologist and pastor and missionary. And those would have been milestones for him as a single person, as a
He
believer.
is a single person's hero.
Yes.
He was single right up to the day he died. He didn't get it didn't seem to be a thing for him. No,
He was too busy.
he was too busy.
First, he was too busy persecuting Christians,
Then he was too busy
being persecuted for being a Christian.
and helping to bring other people to Christ, teaching and preaching. This is the God who I persecuted. Can you imagine? But yeah.
So again, we don't want to say that talking about anniversaries and wedding announcements and these are not bad things.
These are not bad things.
They're just not the be all and end all of what a person is or what it means to be Christian.
That we do have the missionaries that talk, but not all missionaries are single. It's great that you have the missionaries come up and talk about what they're doing and stuff like that. So we do that, but not every missionary is single.
Mm.
So there's got to be in your church. How big is your church? There's got to be single people that, like when you get your master's, I think that would be great. It was like, she's got her master's in apologetics. She's a single. She's got the ministry. He already did. Wait,
Yeah, he said
he already did mention that. And
already
he
mentioned
quoted
it.
it.
Yeah, that's for mentioned our ministry.
No,
Yeah.
because he's on board with
What we're saying,
what we're saying.
yes.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
But yeah, I think we've touched on quite a few things. We've probably opened up some boxes that people may have wished we had left closed, or opened up some boxes and didn't follow
Wait,
the trail.
Okay, so you've opened up this box. You've thrown the paper all over the place. What's in the box?
Why
Sorry.
didn't you finish dealing with that?
You only took out half. We want to know more.
And
you
so
don't want boxes about it.
We're breaking boxes. Sorry we didn't leave you with what was inside the box, because to be fair, is that these are conversations for future podcasts. We are not going to not talk about these subjects. We want to be transparent. We want to be
with some of these conversations we want to have with people, with guest speakers that
we found more.
that have more of an expertise or knowledge about them.
Yeah.
So we choose not to deal with some of these topics amongst ourselves because one is like, for the three of us, like we are like heterosexual people who have been married or dated or whatnot and have led like your conservative Christian life and at some point have some perspective of that. And we don't want to be talking about something that is not our personal experience.
So things like gender identity, sexual identity, same-sex attraction. We don't, although I have a brother, I've known many gay people in my life. to talk from their perspective. I don't have that.
No, and that wouldn't be appropriate. So
No.
we will bring those podcasts out in the future. We are looking for specific guests to have time to be able to on with us. So yeah, it could be something in the future.
Yeah. And if you have any thoughts and suggestions that you would like us to look into and to discuss for future podcast episodes, we're always open to your suggestions.
Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can email us at route77ministries@gmail.com. That's ROUTE 77ministries@gmail.com. And if you felt like you wanted us to finish a topic we started today, let us know. Or if you have ideas on what churches can do to celebrate the single people, then let us know what your ideas are.
Yep. The more questions that we get to, we can also have one of those kind of podcasts where we answer
Q&A.
Yeah, we have a Q&A. Yeah. We may even possibly in the future discuss the possibility of doing live podcasts.
Yeah, we'll see how that.
I'm all for that. I think that'd be cool. That's
Yeah, we thank you for listening, and we hope that you will like and subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. That would be awesome. 5 stars would be awesome. We'd love that. So if you could do that, that would be awesome. Because it awesome too much?
not at all.
Not at all.
No.
more
There's no way you could say awesome too many times.
Can't say awesome too many awesomely times.
No.
Okay.
No, it's an awesome word.
Okay. Awesome. Hope you have an awesome week. And we'll see you here next week. Bye.
Bye, all you
Yeah.
awesome people.
And that wraps up another episode of the Route 77 podcast. We hope our conversation today about dealing with various pressures as a single person has been both enlightening and encouraging. As always, your feedback and interaction means the world to us. Feel free to reach out with your thoughts, questions, or suggestions for future topics on our social media platforms or via our email at route77ministries@gmail.com. Remember, your likes, subscriptions, and reviews help us to reach more singles navigating their faith journey. Until next time, remember to live your single life to its fullest.